Good evening, everyone. It being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to open up the May 16th, 2019 meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And on the agenda this evening, we have one enforcement issue and 5 hearings. And I think we'll start off with the enforcement issue if the homeowner is here. They're not here. Okay. Steve, why don't you go over that with us?
Please. So this is for 388 North Street. Yep. As you go up North Street, it's on the left, just before Thurlow Street. The homeowner installed a septic system this past spring, actually last spring, in the back. It was 100% out of the commission's jurisdiction, and as such, we never were notified of it, and they didn't get any permits through us. They had to take down a large stand of white pine in order to do the project, and at least to the best I can tell, they kept going and cleared in front of the septic system as part of that project. Erosion control was installed differently than proposed in the plan, and obviously they did a lot more grading than proposed by plan. So on that sketch, kind of the dark bottom left corner says trees cut and soil has been disturbed. That's the main area that I believe is heavily vegetated with trees and shrubs. The area between that and the house was lawn, to the best of my knowledge. That whole area right now is dirt. There was a lot of trash there. They provided a lot of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just trying to clean up their property and make it better in lawn, but I think they went a little too far with some of the tree cutting. I have been in touch with them. They provide a lot of pictures. They're cooperating. But I want to just kind of have this enforcement order come before you guys and have you sign that and
So yes, we
lock that
would
down.
we would need to vote to ratify that.
Correct.
What's in the enforcement order?
Is this just a cease and desist at this point?
Yeah, stop all work and come to the commission meeting on the 20th of June.
On the,
June meeting.
oh, okay.
So, and they'll be some
They
charge.
are talking about filing a notice of intent as a means of kind of resolving some of the issues associated with this enforcement order, but also for some home projects that they would also like to do. That application is not complete yet. I don't know the commission's temperament on whether you'd like to resolve the enforcement actions first and then move on to that, or handle all at the same time. They could file that notice of intent. I could probably have them finish that up before that meeting, get it on the next agenda. Either way, if they want to file that, we have to accept it. It's just whether we close it out or we discuss we can almost discuss the enforcement order first and then roll that into the NOI.
And I think it would
Either
make
way.
sense to try and address the enforcement order first. I mean, obviously, as you'd indicated, they certainly can file, but
Correct.
it still doesn't preclude us from trying to push the enforcement order to fruition and try and close it out.
Correct.
As opposed to just accepting the NOI and this kind of gets forgotten. And it's just hanging out there.
And on the plot plan provided that their first draft showing their addition they want to put on it, they completely ignored all the enforcement issues. I had
That's
asked
a-
them to go back and redraw it, so.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem. Hence, makes sense to try to address the enforcement issues first.
Correct.
So, let's see, I would entertain a motion from the commission to, I guess, ratify the enforcement order that was issued by Steve on, what was the date?
Today. Wherever it is. I believe I dated it just for today's meeting.
Okay, so you just wrote it up today?
I sent it to them yesterday via email. The timing did not work out where I felt comfortable certify mailing it before the meeting, like the day before the meeting, in case there was any changes to it.
Anyone care to,
Like to make a motion that we ratify the enforcement order against 388 North Street, as prepared by Steve.
issued on?
Issued on.
Today.
What is today's date?
5/16.
5/16.
Second?
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to ratify the enforcement order against 388 North Street, dated 5/16/2019, issued by Steve, our agent. Is there any further discussion?
Could we just make it clear that it's a cease and desist order?
That's
For all
good for the
work.
discussion.
Yep.
And so noted. So the enforcement order is at this point just a cease and desist. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries. All right. Okay. It being on or after 7 PM, I'm going to reopen a notice of intent for 203 East Main Street, DEP 161-0857, and that's the construction of a residential recycling drop-off area within a buffer zone to a wetland. If I could have the applicant and a consultant, and if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Mary Rimmer, our wetlands consultant, and Jason Mello, the applicant.
Okay. All right, I guess there was still a couple outstanding things that we were looking at, and you were dropping off some new plans or some revised plans to us today?
The engineer for the project had intended to bring those plans to you tonight.
Okay,
He has been advised that that is not your procedure. He should get those to you in advance of the meeting.
yeah, just, I mean, right.
But the changes to the plan, Mary has it with her tonight, were minor. It was basically stamping the plan that was already submitted and removing a note that this was not for construction purposes. And your peer review consultant, Jillian, had noted that in her comments that we needed to submit that plan, and the engineer just didn't get it to you quite in time.
Yeah.
For tonight's meeting, we're happy to review that with you. However, where we are on, and I thought it would be helpful to kind of review where we are on this project with you, because it's been going on for
A little while.
a little while. I think the NOI was actually filed last May, so it's been about a year. We've gone through actually 3 rounds of comments with PSC and Mary Rimmer, starting in September, and then continuing through most recently to April 22nd. And we'd be happy to review those comments back and forth and the responses if you'd like us to do that. The most recent response from BSC was dated April 22nd, and I believe it was via an email indicating that we had satisfied all of her comments, I believe, with the exception of submitting this plan, with the note removed with regard to construction and stamping that plan. I believe that's where we are at this point. I did see, however, in an email that came out from Steve this afternoon, that the commission was waiting on Jillian to clarify one of the concerns brought up by the commission. And we would like some clarification ourselves because we're not aware of any outstanding issues, so.
Okay, could you have any comment on that, Steve?
I mean, just to take it back a step, BFC's review is not the end-all of the project, and now we can vote. It's the end of our technical review, kind of third party. Typically, what happens when that's done is that's kind of when the commission starts discussing the project and their concerns and other aspects. It's not Jillian signed off on it, okay, now let's vote. So I've talked a few times with Jillian. I still have some concerns. A couple of commissioners have expressed some concerns over the stormwater. This is kind of when the commissions now gets their opportunity to start asking questions, both to
Right.
Jillian and to the applicant.
Just refresh my memory, did we talk about doing a site walk out there?
We did. You typically wait till after the
course.
third-party review is done. So
Of course.
as far as I see this, it has been a while. It's a very technical project.
So I think it's a good idea
The
to.
project's kind of just getting started as
It's
far
a-
as the commission's concerned.
It's a good idea to probably review those issues that
Correct.
our third party discussed.
And have been resolved according to the third-party reviewer, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some concerns the commission has that are legitimate that need to be discussed. And so I have a few things I've had some discussions and emails and other things that I'm concerned about that I think still need to be hashed out. We need to do a site walk.
Yeah, definitely,
I still don't have the plan, so they were, I got the plan 2 weeks ago. When I pulled it out of the box for tonight's meeting, I'm looking, I'm like, this isn't the right plan. I contacted them. They apologized for sending the wrong plan. I believe I saw an email in my box from an hour ago where they PDF'd it to me, and they were supposed to bring copies to the meeting. We've, everything has to be in 5 days before the meeting
Yep.
policy.
Right.
So that, obviously, we can't close the meeting, we can't do anything tonight. This
Yeah,
is
I mean,
just
I
a
think
discussion
they're
and then
acknowledging
making
that. I
plans.
mean, there's no, I think they realize that. I mean, it's not fair to, obviously, any board to drop a plan on and say, here, approve this, you haven't read it yet. I mean, that's
And
why the
there's no
regs are
huge
what it is,
changes,
yeah.
but to be honest with you, a lot of the commissioners haven't looked at that plan
Yep.
yet. We were waiting for the third-party review to then do our review. Why would we look at it before? Because things change.
So why don't we discuss those issues that Jillian talked about, kind of discuss those, and then we can
So-
we can schedule a site walk.
Yeah.
And any other issues. I know there was some discussion about stormwater and also whether this actually is the final plan in terms of there's no anticipated future modifications once this is approved.
Yeah, so let me address that. What is encompassed in the NOI and in the plan that you have before you is the project that we're presenting to you. I believe there was some question as to whether the project was going to be expanded for purposes of dealing with some road work and increasing street layout and all of that sort of thing. That has not been officially presented to any board. This project is still with the Board of Appeals. And
No, I guess what what we would be opposed to is if you know, we're trying to get an approval and then kind of come back to us really knowing that we're gonna need to modify.
Hold on, I thought that with the first meeting that you were before us for a residential drop-off facility,
Yes.
correct?
correct,
And that you had to go expand that roadway to do that.
no. We do not, the work that we need for the residential drop-off area is what's shown in the NOI and is what's shown on the plan.
And that's what you're addressing tonight?
Correct.
That same thing?
Correct. There was a question whether the actual street, through South Main Street, had to be expanded to accommodate truck turning movements and things like that. That has not been presented to anyone, nor is that part of this project, and we don't anticipate that that's going to be part of the project. So the question is this the project? Is this what we're asking for approval? Do we think there's going to be anything more? The answer is this is the project. We don't anticipate anything.
Definitively, the answer is yes, that this is the project.
This is the project.
That's what I wanna know.
That's it.
So the traffic engineer in a ZBA meeting did make reference to the need to widen the driveway. So again, I'm confused by
I'm
that.
confused also because I thought that we asked for the site walk to delineate the driveway that they had proposed that was within 100 feet. No, 70, whatever.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do that without those markers. It
So
was definitely for something, a driveway came up very close.
The driveway accessing the property comes within feet.
It was up and around. It was
Correct.
to access the new residential, proposed resident, it was
Okay.
not where it is now. It was up and around, and that's why we asked Jillian
Correct.
to look at the plans.
And she looked at the residential drop-off area.
Yeah.
That's different than my concern is the concept of bifurcating up the project where it, to
Right,
me,
but
it
what happened
appears
with
like.
Jillian's? Where does
She did that
stand?
review based on that little road going to the residential drop-off
Yeah,
up by the site. I'm talking back by the main road,
right, yeah.
right?
So where do we stand with what Jillian, what her discoveries were with that previous project?
And that is the project. And that we can go through with you what the project is, what Jillian has reviewed.
Yeah,
And
why don't we do that?
And that's what we're anticipating. Anything beyond that, there is no intent to do anything beyond that. This is the project that we have before you.
Could I ask a question? Is this is the residential drop-off area. Is it also intended to be expanded? Is there going to be another project to do some other kind of drop-off area which would require the road to be changed? Is that potentially what's going to happen?
No, this project that you have before you encompasses the whole upgrading of the site that's being
Yep.
required by DEP.
I understand the road is not
And
being
what is
discussed.
before you is the portion of that project that falls within your jurisdiction.
So am I to assume that, if it's just for residential drop-off, that we probably won't need to be messing with the road?
The only part that's jurisdictional is the residential drop-off.
Okay.
There are other things going on that they're showing on the plan that they
Okay.
acknowledge are gonna happen. They're enclosing it, so it's not being required. It's also been misspoken a lot on this project. It's not being required. The DEP is requiring them to enclose the building. They're choosing to build a bigger building and expand in certain ways. The residential drop-off is not required. Enclosing it is. This project, as shown, is not required by the DEP. It's just to enclose the existing building. So it is above and beyond. But the only aspect that's in the commission's jurisdiction is the residential drop-off and
I
paying
see.
attention to stormwater.
Stormwater.
Because this is a very sensitive,
it.
critical area.
And that's really why
Yeah.
they
And
want
that's
the
why a
building
lot of the
closed.
concerns are being brought up about
Yep.
the stormwater.
Okay,
And that's kind of a
Thank you.
basic premise with stormwater to try and
Correct.
prevent the
And-
runoff.
And I come back to the ZBA minutes, which capture a reference to the road needing to be improved to allow large trucks to pass and repass as far as the, not residential drop-off, but the expansion of the other area. So I keep hearing, we don't need big trucking, but it says, the traffic person mentions they need to make improvements to the road in the minutes, so.
is that
we're
just
hearing-
for the construction phase, or is that going to be
No, that's the
ongoing?
ongoing. So they're bringing
Because they
bigger
have to
trucks.
take the refuse out of there.
They're bringing in more material, so they need bigger trucks to. bring
Okay,
it.
all right, thanks.
That's my only
That's
reason for
my
the concern
question.
over that.
So just to kind of regroup a little, from a civil engineering standpoint, the existing design can accommodate the size trucks that are gonna go in there.
That what we have proposed on the plan will accommodate it, that's why it was designed that way. Were there discussions during the Board of Appeals hearing process about, could you do something else? Could you do takings along 133? There were all sorts of different things that were discussed, absolutely, those were discussed, but the project plans are these.
Okay, so just to kind of step back, why don't you just go through those discussions with Jillian so we can bring everyone up to speed with those.
So just to orient you, this is Route 133, obviously an access road. We filed an ANRAD back in 2017, and that delineation was approved, although I think the ANRAD is still outstanding. The wetland boundary was approved by BSC. This is the border and vegetated wetland shown in green here and here around the project site, and then Pembroke out here. So there's a 200-foot riverfront area of Pembroke, which doesn't include any of the proposed work area. And there's a 100-foot buffer zone, which I've indicated here, which does include a portion of the work area. This plan here is existing conditions. This is all what the site looks like right now. There was also, this spring, the question came up about whether or not there might be a vernal pool associated with Pembroke out in this area. And Steve had sent me some information about a location that he had heard about or knew about.
The butter brought up a concern about it.
And so we did go and investigate that during the vernal pool season this year. Myself and my colleague and mucked around in there, could not find anything resembling a vernal pool. No, except for painted turtle, we didn't find any other species out there.
It's a hard walk out there.
It's a tough walk, yeah. But it wasn't as much water as I expected to be. There weren't areas, very significant areas of ponding, just the one area that you had pointed out. And it was, obviously, the water quality was fairly poor. And like I said, there were painted turtles in there, but that was it. Not even really any invertebrates. And then just to sort of flip to the proposed conditions. So we'll go to grading plan. This is a blow up of the plan here, and this yellow line is the 100-foot setback, and the orange line is the 75-foot, your no impervious area setback from the wetland edge. Obviously, the wetland is out here at the total slope here. And so this is the area for the residential drop-off, a portion of which in this yellow area here is within jurisdiction here. So it's the backside of the container storage and some of the pavement for the drop-off area is located within your area of jurisdiction. All of that is within, on top of existing capped landfill. So the vegetation would be removed on top of the landfill, gravel base put in, and pavement installed on top of that. And new stormwater management to accommodate the additional runoff. There's not a lot of difference in pre and post rates, because there's not a lot of difference in the infiltration because it's capped landfill. So you're going from a capped situation that by design does not allow infiltration to impervious conditions. But nonetheless, the stormwater management plan complies fully with the new development standards for DEP stormwater standards. So they're not proposing it as under the redevelopment provisions, which are less stringent.
So MS4, it meets MS4?
Separate issue, right, so that would, the MS4 would be a federal,
Well, this is,
Well,
this
that
municipal
went into
land.
effect July 1st, 2018.
right, but that's different from the state stormwater management standards. So that has to do with town infrastructure, and maintenance of town drainage systems, which isn't relevant to this project site, what we're doing here. So DEP has their own stormwater regulations, which are incorporated by reference into the Mass Wetland Protection Act, which are above and beyond what you'd need for.
Well, this is kind of a unique
Actually,
situation,
no.
because you have a private entity on town property. In a private situation, you'd still have to comply with stormwater, but here you have a private on town property, which would have to comply with the state
Right.
regulations. And municipal would be MS4.
So all the standards are all elevated in this case because it's new development and they're improving the stormwater management system that's there now. So even with the additional impervious area, there's more additional treatment being provided. So all of that has been reviewed by BSC,
Yep.
and I think they've provided their comments and have signed off on that. And I guess, you'll
Right, what,
We'll have more
just refresh
discussion
my
about
memory
that.
as far as who is maintaining in terms of stormwater?
That is, okay, so that would be a question that this engineers who are not here did this operation and maintenance plan for it, and I don't know who's
But we will be.
responsible party. I would assume as the leaser. you
Because
would-
obviously, we need to be clear, it's one of these things, if no one's quite sure who's gonna be doing it, 2 years from now, we all look and say, oh, I thought you were doing it, just.
No, we met with the state to get it all back to where it used to be to maintain it. The town originally maintained it at first. And I told them in the spring, as soon as it dries out a little bit, the contractor's gonna come in and fix it all. And then we will maintain it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I just wanna be, clear on that, and that's fine, just so, we don't forget about it and everyone just,
Absolutely.
ignores it.
I'm sorry, are you from Mellow?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
This is Jason
Jason
Mello.
Mello.
Hi, oh, you are? Okay.
He's not only from Mello, he is Mello.
So that's just a general recap of where we're
Okay.
at. So the peer review of these plans has been completed as far as we understand, and I guess, Steve, you have to let us know if you think that that's not the case. It needs to go back to them for any reason. The last set of, I don't think they need to review the plan to see that the stamp is on it and the note is taken off, but if there's anything.
PDF, like, just so they get it, so they can have a
PDF.
final say and
Right.
say, yes, this is
the
plan we
that we
review,
looked at.
and
Yep.
we're okay with it.
Yep. But I think that, the wetland boundaries are very obvious, there wasn't really any issue with that itself. So we're talking about a buffer zone project between 75 and 100 feet on a capital landfill, that's what you're dealing with. So stormwater management is the primary issue. I mean, you're far away from the wetland and you've still got maintained cap landfill between this work area and the wetland. So the likelihood, there's not really a viable buffer zone habitat, in that.
Right, but,
in that area.
stormwater is especially important, because this isn't just parking lot runoff, we have, potential contaminants, so
Exactly, yep,
it's
so
very
they
critical.
have to meet a higher standard,
Right.
it's a higher pollutant load, site, so that's part of the stormwater standards that they had to meet, yeah.
But at the moment, it's not covered.
Right.
And this is a proposal for a covered site, and will all of the material that's being brought in be covered, or will there still be uncovered materials on that site after this project?
No, they'll be covered.
They'll all be covered.
And on that paved area that we're proposing for the drop-off, that's recyclables that is on that.
I'm sorry, pardon?
It's
It's
recyclables.
Okay, what sort of thing?
Paper, cardboard, plastic, glass, tin, aluminum.
Is that this area
Not
right
house,
here?
yes, not actual household trash or MSW.
Okay.
And that will be, in that building, recyclables will be covered,
The building,
the 3 bays.
the 3 bays, those are compaction units, so yes, they are covered, they're
Okay.
fully enclosed.
And that will have runoff within that green border, correct? Because you're
This-
putting a roof on that.
Yep, and all the runoff is generated, I can't really describe the stormwater management plan, I wasn't prepared to do that for you, but that's all captured within the stormwater. Anything that's got a hard surface has to be captured within the stormwater management, overall plan and treated prior to discharge.
Right, and who
Just-
designed, who came up with that plan?
That's,
just-
Cornerstone Engineering, who's stamped these plans.
In
Just
terms
to
of-
clarify though, there's not gonna be a roof over the recyclables. Those are fully enclosed, watertight compaction units.
They're not in a building.
They're not in a building, they're freestanding, but there's doors that open and they have watertight seals on them.
So when you're
In
talking
in
about.
terms of, what gets dropped off, I mean, how do you deal with it if someone tries to, sneak in a hazardous material into refuse, which obviously occurs, and, I mean, you would need to be able to respond to that or deal with it, so it doesn't, contaminate or cause a major impact to the site and your operation.
As people are offloading, there's always 2 to 3 people on the ground visually inspecting what's being thrown away.
Me too.
Obviously, I don't know what's in the bags.
People do, they're not supposed to throw away, fluorescent, compact fluorescent lights with I mean, let's face it, they do. Stuff gets thrown away. mean,
agree.
It's human nature. But, again, do you have as part of the stormwater, like a response capability, or you said you're kind of, you're not opening the bags, but you've got people kind of scanning materials, even someone, they're supposed to send out, lead acid batteries for recycling, they probably don't always do that, or other kinds of NiCad batteries or anything like that, all that stuff.
Anything that is seen by our personnel that is unacceptable material, the customers have to reload it and take that back with them.
Well, that would fall
Unless it's a
under,
material that we can separate and can handle things like tires and televisions and things like that.
Mary, that would fall under standard 10, pollution prevention plan, correct?
Yes, in addition, I think the DEP, Department of Solid Waste Management has standards for that you have to comply with
For
as well.
load inspection,
Right.
we have to do visual inspections.
And so, under number 10, do you have that pollution prevention plan?
Has the SWEP been prepared yet, do you know?
The O&M plan?
Yep.
That's
the-
number 9.
The- There is an O&M plan, I mean, I can tell you, I'm looking at it right now, that maintenance of the lease area will be the responsibility of GMD, Mello. Post-closure monitoring and maintenance of the remaining area of the site will be the responsibility of the town. They're still responsible for the monitoring of the remainder of the site.
But 10 specifically addresses our chairman's concern that it's a pollution prevention plan. It's a specific plan to address.
If a site that, results in soil disturbance that exceed 1 acre automatically requires the preparation of a stormwater pollution prevention plan. So I don't know whether or not this I think it's only 0.6 acres. That this, I read that in the material that the engineer provided, so I don't think they trigger that, but they're, it's erosion control. and
Right, I mean,
erosion
whether
control
it triggers it or
management.
not, you still have to be able to readily address it in case, a bag breaks open and someone's got a jug gallon of oil in there and it starts leaking all over the place.
As part of the O and M plan, right,
Right.
and we can
Right.
see, I can provide you with the O and M plan or direct you to it, if it hasn't already been
It also,
submitted.
the first page of it says that the stormwater management system shall be maintained by the town of Georgetown, so I'm not sure what version you're looking at.
Yeah,
This is
well-
what you guys submit to us. This is the.
So we do wanna clarify that,
Yeah.
which
That's a good
revenue
point, yeah.
we have, and, as Mr. Mello said, I think he's stated differently from what you have,
Yeah,
so we
I mean,
wanna,
this is the notice of intent,
clarify.
long-term operation.
I think after that was written, I met with the state and I agreed with the state that I would fix the stormwater and I will maintain it.
Okay, well then this has to get
Update that,
modified.
yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah, we definitely wanna clarify that, so that'll be good.
And then, and inspection reports still have to be provided to DEP on a regular basis, anyway.
So I did wanna schedule a site walk if everyone would like to.
So
I think it would
wait,
give a little bit of flavor. I mean, it's not huge from a wetland perspective, size-wise, acreage-wise. but I think it would give a better perspective of what they're proposing to actually go out there, since we have the third-party review.
So Pembroke is connected to where?
Parker River. Mary, I have a question regarding that.
Wait a
So-
minute, is the Parker River downriver from Pembroke? It must be. Okay.
Well,
Yep, worked it out.
Yeah.
Got it.
so, Mary, under 314 CMR 4.0, so this is the whole area is a critical area to the Parker River is listed as, so I thought under that
4.0,
regulation,
which is the water quality standards.
yes.
Yep.
That extended the feet to 400 feet, and Parker River is, that watershed is specific listed on that 314 CMR 4.0
For,
for Water Protection Act.
right, so that would have to do with installation of new wells and things like that, which isn't being proposed.
It doesn't.
It doesn't have to do with, no, it
It's
doesn't have to
it's
do with
referenced in all the stormwater protection laws.
Right, the
Okay.
different law, that's water quality, and you can't fill wetlands that are in an ORW, which would be an area that's tributary to a public water supply. So this doesn't propose to directly fill any wetlands, but doesn't.
But they have to raise to a higher standard because they're in a critical area.
If they're filling wetlands, and
I
then
didn't notice that it only
then 310
pertained to-
CMR4 would apply.
I didn't notice that it only pertained to filling wetlands. When I'm looking at the stormwater, it constantly refers to 314 CMR 4.0
Yeah.
and to note your areas of critical concern, and it's the Parker River
I
watershed.
think 4.0 is just the water quality standards.
It's referenced all throughout the entire stormwater MS4 permitting
Right.
process.
Right. But again, this, because we're actually proposing a new development, we're, have an entirely different set of standards that are more than what the MS4 requires. So the MS4 is something the town is responsible for. This is a private development, they have to comply with the DEP stormwater.
How does that work though when it's town property and it's?
Well, that's what I brought before, it's kind of a unique,
strange
it's a unique situation.
It may be part of the town's MS4 plan already, because it's a town facility.
Actually, no,
We did
I
submit it.
verified with the state, the applicant is responsible for the stormwater in the MS4,
Right, which
Applicant.
we're doing.
not the town.
That's why we're proposing that. I'm not sure that I'm not helping you or clarifying your question.
Did you just say that what you're proposing exceeds the requirements of MS4?
See, they're two different animals, so we're in a notice of intent right now, and
Yep.
that's what we're focused on, is the stormwater standards for a notice of intent. I would have to defer to the project engineers definitively, but my understanding is that the MS4 standards have to do with the town's compliance with the federal Clean Water Act,
Well,
essentially.
the Federal Clean Water Act, which is pushed onto the state, which then pushes it on to
Exactly.
municipalities
So
and
ultimately,
towns,
it's a
et cetera.
federal standard.
Of course.
The state can enact their own standards as long as they're more
It's
stringent.
more stringent, that's
than-
correct.
So we're acting under a standard that is already stricter than those MS4 standards.
Because industry has been under stormwater for 25 years, from EPA.
Mhm.
Municipalities are just coming up to speed now.
Yeah.
I was doing this stuff back in the 80s.
So there are certain things that they're required to do as a private
I
development.
thought MS4 was designed, that they're redoing the stormwater regulations to come up to MS4 standards. That was my understanding, that MS4 goes above and beyond some of the
No.
state requirements.
No, it's the other way around. You can't have it that way. I mean, yeah,
So we can, I guess we can pose that you can check with your engineers just to verify that.
if you want to
check also.
have some,
I already asked
PSC
Jill, yeah.
provide some
Yeah.
kind of response to that question, so that we can
And
address that.
then we also need to
at the next
find out
meeting.
under the Parker River watershed if that extends under 314 CMR 4.0 to 400 feet to either stormwater or MS4. Special resource waters, something, yeah.
Okay.
400 feet?
I believe I saw 400 feet.
So if you're discharging directly to an ORW, which would be outside resource water, then you have a higher treatment standard, And that would mean that instead of a half an inch of runoff, that has to be pre-treated prior to discharge of the full inch of runoff.
Right, so you're treating 80% of your.
TSS removal.
Right.
Right, and so that would have, because I wasn't privy to the back and forth between Cornerstone Engineering and BSC, I would assume that that has been worked out. It's it's already at a higher standard because it's a higher pollutant load project, so I'm assuming that that has been incorporated into the final design.
Well,
But
we
can
just need to
clarify that.
verify that.
Right, but so where the wetlands on that residential drop-off affect the wetlands, so we should be able to see the plans as it relates to the stormwater and that.
Sure,
in the-
yeah,
in the
yeah.
8% and how that.
Exactly,
right, so-
it's on the plans,
Right.
those stormwater facilities are on the plans.
Can you have the engineering team just provide like a memo addressing this to
Sure.
kind of clarify what the difference is between the stormwater standards and the MS4, how they relate, and maybe an opinion on how this hybrid, what their opinion is on the hybrid aspect of this, because this doesn't fit into the typical box.
Okay.
And I think we're gonna go around on that, because
Yeah.
we're looking at different standards for different
Yeah,
options.
yeah,
And then how it meets the.
in the forward of what you're
yeah,
talking about, yeah.
Because that's a
Yeah.
Parker River watershed, that's
Sure.
a huge
Well,
environmental impact.
In reality.
Just the nature of this business, it's not, you're not putting up a typical house, you're going to have waste, who knows what's coming in there.
Right.
Well, that,
Yeah,
hence
it's
my,
already-
hence my questions about, waste and response and how to
Right,
deal
yeah,
with it,
yeah.
in terms of, contaminants, metals and materials that go in the refuse. So, yeah, this could be this could be a unique situation, a true hybrid, that there are parts of the site that absolutely have to fall in MS4, but the private part of the project, they have to meet the more traditional, industrial side of stormwater. So, let's,
We'll provide that, and I think it's important to note, however, that this is a transfer station,
Yeah.
which means that everything that comes in goes out within 48 hours. So this isn't a landfill, this isn't where, anything where materials are
Right.
going to stay. Comes in, separated, shipped out within 48 hours, maximum 72.
But
So-
doesn't mean though that there can't be spilling or.
Absolutely.
So
Let's
there
do a
has to be
site walk.
prevention plan.
Right, and there is one in place, we will make sure that you have a copy of that.
Hold on, there's one more, no, here, hold on a second.
So if commissioners have specific questions and concerns, they can email me, and I can forward them on. So I know it's kind of one of these, get all your questions out during the meeting, but you can follow up on them later too.
Can I just ask Mr. Mello, how long, when do you anticipate that this project would be undertaken and completed?
The residential drop-off area, if it gets approved, I would start immediately. And it's not a large project to do, so it wouldn't take long. And that will help the traffic flow and the bottleneck congestion of trying to get the cars in, trying to get the pickup trucks in, dump trucks onto the scale, and that way it'll just help the traffic flow entirely.
Can I just ask as well, I'm sorry to ask this question, but is it an enclosed building or just a roofed area?
Enclosed building.
Okay, lovely.
does it have any kind of a drainage system in the building and a collection point, other floor drains and things like
There's
that?
floor drains with
A
a
sump?
with a tank that will get pumped out.
Right, it's part of the whole
Our
stormwater plan,
DEP
et cetera,
regulations,
right, right.
once it gets dumped in the building, liquid cannot make it back out of the building.
Good. So it's late enough now, we can do a site walk after work
Mhm.
and probably get more people to come than if we tried to do it on a weekend. So we've got the third party done, so we could do it, anytime it doesn't it's not pouring rain, which is pretty tough these days.
Can I ask Mary another question? It says that the portion of the property that is not yet impervious must meet stormwater standards fully. How do you, what do
Where are
you?
you reading from? I'm not sure what
It's,
this is from.
just some notes that,
Somebody sent to you.
property that is not yet impervious, what would that mean, that non-pervious?
So
Like a
so
dirt
it's,
road
so
or-
it's dirt or not, doesn't
Yeah,
have
right.
concrete
So
down or?
essentially, the entire limit of the work that they're proposing is paved. I mean, it's impervious. So they're capturing all of that. Beyond the limit of work, is curving, right, around your pavement. So it's all being treated as impervious area. The rest of the landfill cap will continue to drain as it currently does.
Is the current cap marked on your plan?
Yes.
It is, okay, okay,
The limit is, oh, yeah.
thanks.
So does anyone have any preference for site walk date?
Nope.
Let's see. And you're looking to get this done as soon as possible, so we could do it as soon as this coming week, if possible. What's people's availability this coming week?
Any day.
Any day. Let's see. Tuesday?
Sure.
What is the
Any
date?
objections?
What is the date?
21st.
21st.
Yeah, oh, well, yeah.
Okay. Mary is not available for that date.
Oh,
I don't know if I need to be here.
I think
So throw some dates out that you are around.
Let's see, Monday
Bless you.
thanks.
This Monday?
or, yes, Monday or Wednesday. I am available in the evening. Tuesday and Thursday, yes, I have other hearings.
How about Wednesday?
Yep.
22nd.
What time did you say? 6?
22.
Is that what it was, 6 o'clock?
I didn't hear.
I didn't hear a time yet.
Mm-mm. Is 6, I could do 5:30.
It's a little early for me, I could do.
Oh, it is
6,
early for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
6 is good.
Okay,
It's about the earliest I could do.
okay.
6
Mr.
p.m.
Chairman, is that okay with you all? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we hold a site walk at 203 East Main Street on Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 o'clock.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to conduct a site walk at 203 East Main Street on 22 May at 6 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a continuation.
And we need a continuation.
Are there any, I've been taking diligent notes to pass on to our engineer. Are there any other outstanding issues? Was there any issue that has been passed on to Jillian that we don't know about that you referenced in your
It
email?
was just the stormwater. It was a conversation.
Okay.
Those are just stormwater.
And you clarified for me who was gonna do the PM, so.
Yeah, that just needs to be changed in the paperwork
Right.
because it doesn't show that.
Yes.
There was another question. So like one of the aspects, typically when there's waivers being requested, it's alternative design or alternative locations. You guys are looking into Carlton. Is that something that is appropriate to be discussed because it's an alternative site? Or is your kind of intention that just to keep that 100% separate? Because I'm getting questions about it all the time, and I'm just curious if it's something that's relevant to be brought up in this meeting, just so that everyone's aware and we can kind of clarify so there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah,
of the general public.
There has been a public hearing going on with regard to an alternative location
Mhm.
on Carlton Drive. That has more permitting to do, including before this commission and the planning board. However, what we have before you is dealing with
Right,
DEP
but-
requirements for this
Right,
particular site.
but, you know, as part of our requirements, you're required to look at alternatives, and that's really why he asked that
Mhm.
question, so, you know, that's why we're kind of bringing this in, not that we're holding that versus this, but it's valid to bring that up as a point of discussion.
Absolutely, and it's certainly been in the public record, there's been public hearings on it, but there's a ways to go on that.
But your intent is to pursue this to completion versus the other project at this point?
Yes, we have an existing operation, an existing facility, and we have requirements from DEP that we have to do certain things on this site. And we want to upgrade this site to address not only DEP concerns, but concerns of residents that we've heard as we've been going through this whole process with regard to traffic and residential drop-off and all of that kind of thing, that, as Jason said, if this gets approved with regard to the residential drop-off, he's going to do that right away. The other site is under permitting. We'll have to go through all of that entire permitting process and construction and all of that. So this project is going forward.
Okay,
So
before,
potentially there'll be both?
There
That's
will
what
not
I'm
be
hearing.
2 transfer stations operating at the same time, if that's what you're asking.
so before we continue, let me ask, are there any abutters to 203 East Main Street? Seeing none. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to try and continue this. What do we have for dates here? June 20th.
At 7:20, please.
June 7/20. I'll entertain a motion. 7/20.
Mr. Chairman, can we continue 203 East Main Street, DEP 1610857, GCC 2018-05 to June 20th at 7:20?
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 203 East Main Street to June 20th at 7:20 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you at the sidewalk.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right.
I'll be right out.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we have a butters here for 51 West Main. I believe that's gonna be continued, so if we can just take the agenda in order. We would often bounce around, but I think we should go in order tonight.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, it, being on or after 7:10 PM, I'm going to briefly open the notice of intent for 51 West Main Street, GCC 2019-05. And I understand the applicant is not here, and there was some issue with the initial notifications.
They're requesting a continuation. They requested continuation because a third-party review hasn't been completed yet. A side note is that there was an issue with the notification,
Which,
and they're gonna rectify.
since abutters have not formally all been
Correct.
notified, we can't really discuss it at all. It would
Correct.
not be appropriate.
So my recommendation is just they request a continuation. We're straightening out the notification to abutters, so just continue it to June 20th at 7:10, please, and we can, I'll have all the issues addressed by then and give you a better overview of what's
Yeah,
going on.
I'd like to get an abutter list to make sure we've
Correct.
notified everyone involved.
Yeah, they missed about half the abutters on the list.
It's very
Did they
interesting.
think they were on a pond?
I don't know.
I'm the attorney for the applicant. I'm not quite sure what happened at the engineer's office. He has realized that there was a problem and has corrected that. I think he provided Steve with
He
some-
hasn't provided me anything. He's said he's aware of it and he'll correct it. I don't know what that means. He really should work with me on correcting it, not do that unilaterally, but I'll work with him on Monday.
I will
Right. I
Thank
mean,
make sure he gets in touch with you on
Thank you.
Monday, because my understanding is that it has been
Okay.
corrected,
Sounds
whatever
good.
problem there was. May I ask just one question about timing on peer review? Do we have any idea when peer review might?
She just got back from a Jillian just got back from vacation. She's on it, so I don't. She didn't give me a time when she thought she'd be done with it.
Okay,
She's
thank
on it
you.
now. Thank you. So June 20th at 7:10.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue 51 West Main Street, DEP 1610877, GCC 201905 to June 20th at 7:10 PM.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 51 West Main Street to June 20th at 7:10 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very much. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. All right, let's see, it being on or after 7:20, I'm going to open a new notice of intent for 182 Pond Street, BP 161-0878, GCC 2019-06, and this is a septic system replacement. If I could have the applicant and/or consultant, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Bob Grasso from Engineering Land Services.
Good evening.
I have a DEP number 161-0878 with no comments.
Okay.
I have green
Green cards?
illegal advertisement. So you want both?
Yes.
This site's located at 182 Pond Street. It's located at the intersection of Prescott Lane and Pond Street. This is an existing dwelling of 5 bedrooms, shown in brown right here. It's serviced by town water through the front right here. The existing system flows out of a line right here to a leach pit, which is shown in orange. We have the wetland delineated by Norris Environmental with an intermittent stream shown right here through 1B through 12B, and the edge of wetland BVW delineated by Norris Environmental also shown in 1A through 9, and shown in this blue line.
So is the system in failure?
Yes, it is. They're Title V. They're actually going through they're selling the property. She's actually going to elderly housing.
That's the farmhouse?
Yes.
The Thompson property?
Yes, yes. The first yellow line is the 50-foot no cut, no disturb zone. The purple line is the 75-foot no build setback. And the second yellow line is the 100-foot wetland BVW buffer. We conducted soil tests out there, right here and here with the Board of Health. What we're designing is a 1,500-gallon tank to a 2,000-gallon holding tank to a 1,500-gallon pump chamber up to a DBOS with a Presby system. The site, the septic system will be an elevated mounted system. We're proposing a liner around the whole the system to lessen the impact on the grading for the in the buffer zone right here. Or in the buffer zone right from this yellow line here.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty close to it's an old property, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, we first tried over here.
There's wet over there too.
Yeah, we tried over here, it was really rocky. It wasn't really good material, plus we would have been closer to the wetlands. So we decided to go out here, which is a better material. Actually, when we were out, we actually went out twice. The first time the excavator broke down, we had to go back, and then we retested over here another day. The Board of Health has approved this plan. We have Board of Health approval. And
This is
basically,
I think this is a case where the wetlands expanded from years ago.
yeah,
There's a foundation out in the wetland.
right out here. There's a foundation over here, I think, please. They're all over the place, so there's just remnants of concrete walls. Oh, during construction, we're proposing a silt sock fence shown in red right here. That would be the limit of work, silt fence, silt sock right here shown in red.
The original leach pit, are you going to fill that in?
That will be
or-
pumped, crushed, and removed. Or filled with clean sand. That's where it will be touching just right where the pump chamber will be going. So that they excavate that hole, and then they have to put 6 inches of stone below the tank for leveling purposes.
So you did say that was a Presby?
Yes.
So how-
That's 40% reduction in size
So
compared to.
how high are you gonna have to raise that up from the existing height up there now?
This in grade right here is 100, and we're going to 100 right there, but actually we're going to 94 right here, 96, 98. So we're actually, right here would be the highest point right here. That would be about 94.5, 5.5 feet right here with the liner, and then we're going 3 to 1 from the liner down, and that would be the limit of grading right there, which hits elevation 92.
Wow.
And the closest point to the wetland would be 82 feet to the leach area, and the grading would stop right here which would be 67 feet.
Steve, you have,
Closest
do
point.
you have any
to-
comments? I'm actually pretty familiar with the property. I know there's
I
not a
think-
lot of place to put
I-
something out there.
I already can tell you know more about it, because you've already mentioned foundations in the backyard that I was not aware of.
Is a leach pit just a hole in the ground?
No, it's a structure, it's a concrete structure with stone around it.
Oh, okay.
First it goes to a tank, which is right here, and then it goes, it gravities to just fluid. Solids get held into an old tank right here, which will be pumped, crushed, and removed.
Right.
Where the old one is, what they do is they cut the pipe off and drop a new tank in,
Okay.
which is, they're all monolithic now. So that the old tanks used to come in two pieces, and they'd have a rubber sealant around, which eventually dries out, and you actually get water infiltration.
Yeah.
So you're treating groundwater, not septic. Actually, you're getting more water in.
Right.
than you treat.
How old would something like that be?
It's pretty old. This is a pretty old house.
Yeah.
It's
How,
probably,
I don't know the history of it, but
early
it's,
1800s. Actually, that
Yeah.
whole property, Prescott, that was a farm. That's what the
yeah,
name of the
that's
street
part,
is.
that's why it was Prescott Lane. Yeah.
Yes, looks like a huge improvement.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
as I said,
definitely.
I
Right
don't,
there.
there is not a lot of land in there that doesn't get close to resource areas.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options.
We try to push this, you know, like,
This house is virtually right on the street. I mean, you step out
we
the
put
front door.
grading
Yeah, I
right
know
up,
that.
right up
I
to,
know.
the- almost to the property line. So we pushed it as far as we could towards the front.
So which way does the stream run? Wait, I can work that out. Okay, it runs into the wetland.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
And then we also said not to run by the Georgetown Commission, the wetland line.
Yeah, okay. So we would, if we approve this, it would be not accepting the wetland line. And this is an existing system, obviously.
What's the date on the plan?
Date?
Yes, please.
04/04/19.
What was that for?
04/04/19. And it was approved by the Board of Health also, like, as I mentioned before.
yep. That's a very small leach pit compared to the
Well-
size of the house and the new system you're
Well,
putting in.
that's how
So
they-
that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
An outhouse on it at one point.
Oh, did it really?
Oh,
It looks like it did,
Well,
yeah.
I think if you look at the portion of the top, that's like a garage, so that probably is not a
I
reasonable.
don't, he said, I asked the son, the woman that's leaving the house, she lives by herself, she's going to elderly housing. She said that was a big chicken,
It was a chicken farm.
yeah, chicken farm,
Yeah.
all chickens.
That, there were barns out in the back, you know, before the development was made.
Oh, I'm sure there
That's
wasn't
where all
any
those
runoff
foundations
out of
are
there.
Falling down.
None.
None.
So there really isn't a lot of option. I mean, this is an old house, probably early 1800s.
And we pushed it up as far as we could from the wetland. Like I
It
said, we
meets all
tested
the
over the area, we said, this
Setbacks
is a
from
better.
the road, et cetera.
Yes, 10 feet from the property line, we're actually 14 feet.
Yeah.
But we had to push it back for the grading purposes instead of a retaining wall. Maximum feasible compliance with that.
Are we good?
I think, any questions? I'll entertain a motion. Actually, before we do that, are there any abutters to 182 Pond Street? Yea, nay? None noted, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the NOI for 182 Pond Street, DEP 1610878, GCC 2019-06, for a septic system replacement. The plan is dated 04/04/19, and we're not accepting the wetland line.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to approve the notice of intent for 182 Pond Street, GCC 2019-06, a plan dated 04/04/19, and not accepting the wetland line. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close the notice of intent for 182 Pond Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close 182 Pond Street, NOI DEP 1610878, GCC 2019-06.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 182 Pond Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining.
Thank you.
Carries. You're welcome.
Yep.
And let's see.
And do you do the work as well? Do you install
Oh,
the
no,
system?
I'm just designer. I don't, that's, they have to be licensed in every town. So all the installers have to be on the Board of Health list.
Okay.
I just, that's too much work.
All right, it being on or after 7:30, are you with us again?
Yes, sir.
We have a new ANRAD. We read a notice of resource area delineation. And this is for 103-109 Thurlow Street, DEP 1610879, GCC 2019-07. And if you could identify yourself for the record again?
Again, my name is Bob Grassel from Engineering and Other Services. This is an ANRAD filing. We got a DEP member with no comments. We have the legal-
Yes.
This project started out with 103 Thurlow owning the entire lot. We went through the planning board process for a modification to a subdivision plan for this private court right here, which is owned by number 111 Thurlow Street. We went through the modification, got that approved, and then we went to an A&R process with the planning board to create lot 78A. The previous wetland was delineated for the one-lot subdivision for 111, and that was flagged by Seacamp Environmental in 2010, shown in blue right here, and then a light cyan line right here. And that was the only flag that were for that one-lot subdivision. So we went out there, we did soil testing, we designed the septic system design, which was approved by the Board of Health. We had it reflagged by Norris Environmental on 0601 of 18, shown in this heavy blue line right here. Actually, they connected right into, they stopped at, well, actually 3B through 16B shown right here, and we connected it into the old flagging, A9, which is on the opposite, which affects our lot on the opposite back of the wetland. We actually expanded the wetland line from the Seacamp to the north. I think maybe that was because there's a drainage easement in the impervious area. Maybe the wetlands got a little larger from the post development from this driveway. So that actually it was worse for us. Actually made the buffer zone larger on our lot.
So the actual parcel that you're looking for an ANRAD is kind of, is at the top of the,
On top, on the.
actually
on
where the
southern
resource
top.
area is, kind of this 3 acre.
And it comes
parcel.
onto our property right through here, and it continues just off our property. So the first line would be the 50-foot no cut, no disturb line. The second line, the purple line, would be the 75-foot no build setback. And the second line would be the 100-foot wetland BDW buffer right here. We're proposing the house to be out of the buffer, the septic, the reserve area shown right here in green. During construction, we're proposing a silt sock out of the buffer, along the buffer line, and towards the property line right here. So we're actually gonna protect anything that would get into the buffer zone for any grading purposes. There's no grading in the buffer zone, so we're stopping it short of the buffer zone. Actually, the closest point to the buffer zone.
So that's a proposed house?
Yes.
Now, this is kind of unusual, because normally in the ANRAD, we don't get involved in.
Yeah, I know, I'm just showing the buffer.
It's okay.
Just, even if we had to adjust the wetland flags, we could still push the house a little forward and push the septic a little bit forward too.
I mean,
If
you
we
could-
had to adjust
I
like
guess
4 or 5 feet.
You
or
could have just
something.
filed the NOI too, but.
No, we're not gonna do that. Just an ANRAD. So we'd be out of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. with that, with the ANRAD of this line.
So,
We're trying to make it least costly for the owner of this. She's selling, there's a tragic tragedy in the family, so that's why she's selling the property.
so I would recommend that we probably have a third party done in this. And, we'll get that and make the decision. And, then we'll make a motion for a third party review of the ANRAD wetland line for the Thurlow Street project.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to have a third-party review on the NRED at 103, 109 Thurlow Street, TEP 161 0879, GCC 2019-07.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to conduct a third-party review of the 103 through 109 Thurlow Street parcel. And my recommendation probably would be utilize BSC if we could.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question.
You may.
I haven't been before this board for a long time. I'm just wondering how you pick up a peer review. Do you do like 3 bids, or do you send it out for like 3 bids, or you just pick whoever you? I'm just asking the question.
We typically use firms that we know do good reviews.
Okay.
And, you know,
I mean, does one firm get more work than the other, or do you get like 3 bids and then
we
take
don't
a bid?
necessarily, I mean, basically the commission chooses who they want. We don't
Okay.
go through the process
Because
of.
some towns are different.
Yeah, and right, I mean, that would obviously take extra time too.
Mm.
We don't really want the low bidder, we want, you know, someone who's gonna do a
Yeah,
good job for
a
us.
medium bidder or something like that.
When we've, multiple years ago, we go for 3 bids,
Mm.
multiple
That's why I say I
times.
haven't been here
Yeah,
for a while.
and BFC came in the middle, and they were doing good work. So at
Okay.
this point, to save time and energy, we're
Yeah.
just getting us with
Like I said, I haven't been here for a while.
And, you know, the projects usually aren't that, you know, to the point where, I mean, if it was a super large project, very expensive, then we might, you know, do a 3-bid type of
3
thing.
bid,
But-
yeah.
But when we're interested in a quality job, as I'm sure you are, and
Mm.
obviously not the most expensive just for the sake of paying more
Mm.
money, but
Mm.
a good job, that we get good feedback.
Yes.
Not a drive-by third party, and we've seen those before. Looked good to me, I was driving 40 miles an hour by it and didn't see anything to worry about. We've actually had people do things like that, it's like, what? They give us a third party, didn't say anything.
Been working for years, so.
So, anyhow, the motions,
So it needed to be voted. We got a second from
We-
Rachel,
right,
but
and-
you didn't
and,
actually call the vote.
I made a comment about utilizing BSC, and if you'd like to add that to the motion.
So moved.
So
Can I
seconded.
So, I mean, we normally would recommend at this point, again, it quickens the process, we just say do a third party. If we include in the motion, we wanna use, say, BSC.
You want me to say the whole thing again?
No, just say,
So moved.
so
So
moved.
moved.
Excellent.
I said it.
So, any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
When will we be,
Continue to June 20th at 7:05.
you think the peer review would be done by then?
So you just need to send it to Jillian as soon as you can, and she'll get to it. We always continue in a month, so if it's ready, great.
Yeah.
If it has to continue again, we continue. We don't go 2 months
What
out.
about the contract up to be signed between DOC?
Correct. So I'll get, once you send the whole file to Jillian, she'll send me a contract. I'll then forward that to you. I'll sign the contract, you give me the check, and work can start.
Okay.
And I would entertain a motion to continue this hearing post to, I guess, the 20th.
June 20th at 7:05.
To 7:05.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue 103-109 Thurlow Street to June 20th at 7:05.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to continue the NRAD for 103, 109 Thurlow Street to June 20th at 7:05 PM. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
We'll see you then. All right. Moving right along. It being on or after 7:40. I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for 27 Pillsbury Lane, GCC 2019-08. If I could have the applicant and consultant, or consultant, if you could identify yourself. And this is to replace and expand an existing deck and add grading within 100 feet of the buffer.
My name is Jen Studer. I am the resident at 27 Pillsbury Lane. This is Scott Studer,
Hello?
also resident.
So if you could kind of walk us through what you're looking to do.
Sure. So our property abuts the conservation, not the conservation land, but the Pillsbury Pond. And what we are looking to do is to effectively, in our backyard, which is currently lawn and some bushes, to replace our existing deck and extend that deck, and to also put a 3-season room off the side of the property. In order to do that, we're also gonna look to do some regrading of that area. So the plan that we have, which I believe you guys probably have, has that deck extending no closer than 75 feet to the wetlands, and also has the grading at no closer than 70 feet to the wetlands. And I actually think that grading will be further away. But as we bring in our architect and others, I want to make sure that we are within what is acceptable to the Conservation Commission.
So the proposed addition, that looks, is the actual corner going into that 100-foot, or is that just kind of the way it's drawn?
Potentially by a foot. That's why we included it.
Yep.
I almost suggested leaving it off the plan, but technically it is encroaching. And while they're in front of the commission, it just made sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
The DEP is not, has no issues with it. Nor do I.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you went around, Pillsbury Pond was a beautiful parcel before it got developed. That was a beautiful.
I know, I've heard a lot. Sorry.
Parcel.
We were one of the
I only
first,
did- I only
we were like the
discovered it-
third house in there, and
I
we've
only
been there
discovered it
since,
at
I'm
the point
sorry.
when they were gonna, rip it all down and make a development.
We
of it.
didn't know.
Wait, so the retaining wall is already there?
No, it is not. There is a,
There is a wall along the back.
Yes.
With no cut markers, right?
Yes.
That long straight is existing. The
And-
proposed grading and retaining wall, that's more curved, is proposed.
Yeah.
With arrows showing the direction of the fill.
So this part is existing and this will be new?
No, the whole thing is new.
The whole thing.
that whole line is new, and more than likely, we will not be that close to that area. Again, one of the things that we wanted to make sure we did is kind of put in a worst-case scenario here, so that we made sure that when we do bring people out to work through this, that we stay within all potential boundaries that would be set by this agreement.
So I guess what's the purpose of the retaining wall, just to elevate that portion of the yard?
Yeah, so that whole back area for our yard, effectively from the house, from the front of the house to the, well, probably from about a third of the way, from the front of the house to the back of the house, slopes down, so that it actually is a walkout basement, at that point. And so what we wanna do, based on adding in, some decking and that 3-season room on the side, is to allow us to have a little bit more space, so that is a little bit more leveled off for usage.
And you're not cutting down any vegetation or?
It's all lawn.
All lawn.
Yep.
So as far as the deck, are these gonna be sonotubes? I mean, what kind of excavation are they gonna be doing back there?
So the plan was to do sonotubes. That's what's there now. They're 4x4 posts on top of the concrete round sonotubes, and we're gonna probably put in 6x6s instead. But
Are you gonna have to dig more, or are you gonna be able to use the existing and kind of cantilever out? Do you know?
I'm not sure yet. I couldn't say certainly.
Yeah.
I suspect we were gonna try to wrap the deck around a little bit to go to the room, which means there'll need to be a few additional sonotubes.
Okay.
It's much bigger. They
Yeah, it's a
couldn't
much
use the
bigger deck.
original sonotubes for that.
Okay.
Being
I
a
was gonna
huge
say.
builder that I am.
Oh, Jim told, yeah. So
No, it's
Jim
just-
reviewed this for you?
Yeah, I'll call him. No, it just looks enormous.
Okay. I just was
Hmm.
checking on the amount of dirt movement that would be done.
So, I'm sorry, is this your property line? Is
No,
that
it's
what-
not. The property line goes all the way back, so we have about 1 acre, and it does go all the way back to, the pond itself, pretty
Oh,
much.
right, so
The-
what is
But
this?
this is the effectively the
It's
no
a
cut.
stone wall.
Yeah.
So when they,
Oh, okay.
when they put it in, it's a stone wall about that high. It's
Okay.
just big boulders that they stacked up.
Okay.
And that effectively is the boundary of the no-cut zone, so anything that happens
Right, that was kind
behind
of.
that.
Right, okay,
back in
so
the
that's
era,
a
we were doing
natural
like a
boundary.
We were doing like a natural boundary, buried.
Right,
Yep.
So there's a stone wall and then there's a bunch of bushes they planted on top of it to hold the rocks in place. And so on the lower part of the picture, it's all
This is all
natural
woods
woods. And then the other side of it's just all grass.
and lawn, yeah. Just all lawn.
okay. So it's pretty steep back there.
Yes.
Well, right from the no cut zone to the house is fairly flat, and then from the back of the house to the front of the house is where you have that steep grade.
Oh, okay.
So there are existing kind of no cut, no disturb along that line, which they're not encroaching on, and they're not kind of looking for any waivers from the bylaw, so.
Okay. So it's pretty much the entire retaining wall, fill, this is all fill in here, right?
Yep.
And this whole part of the deck we're talking about. What kind of square footage of fill are we talking? Do we know?
No idea.
Do we-
I
is
mean,
it-
it's outside the 50, so I didn't bother calculating it. If it was a waiver and inside the 50, I would have paid more attention to it. I don't know.
What kind of retaining wall will it be?
Probably just a stone,
Just
I
a
mean, just a
natural
natural
stone.
stone wall. And
Probably talking like,
The key idea was to have a flat part in the yard. So
Uh-huh,
the soccer,
oh, yes,
yeah,
very
exactly.
important,
so
Now the
probably-
ball rolls into the woods.
you're probably talking 20 by 50 foot.
okay.
So the intent for the deck portion is to remain a deck and not become another room too, correct?
No.
no, that won't be a room.
Call it deck creep.
I guess if it's really steep, I guess my only question would be runoff and sort of fill escaping down the hill.
Yeah, we, at one of the versions of our plans that we drew had erosion control.
Yes,
And I
that-
think that fell off the final plan.
No,
Is
actually,
it on there?
that's on there. That unfortunately, I mean,
Oh, it's that,
It's that
crossed.
line
Awesome,
that
okay.
comes, yeah, so unfortunately,
It
it
just wasn't
spends most
labeled.
of its time, it's a nice little smiley face. That
Okay.
starts up here, comes down along
Oh,
that
I
no
see
cut
it.
line,
I get
and then
it.
comes back up.
Okay, so it's just, it's not labeled on my plan then.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we do have that erosion line on there,
I
but
take that
I
back.
did not label it.
I take that back.
Apologies.
It is included.
It's here, that's it,
Yes, thank you.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you do.
How high will the wall be?
I found it. About 5 feet.
It is.
I hate
It's a pretty steep area,
Yeah, okay, but it's 75 feet,
70. The soil's at 70,
70.
the structure's at 75.
okay.
Being that you're gonna have a 5-foot retaining wall, you're gonna need to put any kind of a fencing around that so someone doesn't,
Yeah, it's- So I think the
Kids,
building,
anything like
building
that?
code is over 3 feet.
well, you know, if we look at normally fall, you get into fall protection area with 4 feet above,
Yeah.
type of thing.
So they'll need a building permit for the structures and the wall, so the building department's usually one that oversees that, as far as making sure that it's got geotech stabilization.
And as I'm looking at the deck, I don't see any stairs coming down from that, is that by design or
So,
out of the proposed room or the deck?
yeah, so we're looking at our main entrance coming out of the sunroom and from the back of the house and around. And if we do add the stairs, because again, this is a proposal that we're trying to make sure we've got the space for before we have someone actually come out and architect and design and spend the money to do that and then potentially have it rejected by your group. So we want to make sure that we're kind of doing
We actually
that.
had an architect come out and she said, why don't you get this through conservation before I take your money?
Well, yeah, the only thing is like, we like to approve final
Smart woman.
plans, not kind of
Yeah.
proposals.
But you also made it bigger. I think originally
Yes.
we made it bigger than they plan on building. So as
Yeah.
long as the stairs are included in the footprint of this, then it meets the kind of the
Oh, I don't,
approval.
I'm not saying it doesn't meet it, I'm just saying
Yeah, yeah.
that we won't end up with a final plan then.
Correct. Yeah, but as long as it's smaller than what's shown, that's okay. It just can't be bigger. So I think multiple times we chatted about this, it's very unlikely it's gonna be built to that size.
'Cause that's a
The
big-
fact that they didn't know, they didn't have a
I wouldn't wanna
design,
stain it.
they went bigger.
I wouldn't wanna put, I wouldn't wanna pay for the Trex.
Square
either.
footage wise, it's similar to the house. I mean, it's big.
So Steve, talk to me about the 1,000 square feet of, well, actually, what might actually turn out to be 5,000
Yeah,
cubic feet
depending on the math.
of fill.
What would you like to know?
You're happy with that?
It's allowed per regulations. It's outside the 50, it's at 70. It's got a pretty heavy wall that would prevent a major blowout and eroding down into the wetlands, and it has 70 feet to get there. I'll be honest, that's not that much fill. It seems like a lot, but we deal with subdivisions that have millions of yards of fill. I'm not worried about it, as long as they build the wall. This is not a homeowner putting blocks up 5 feet. This is a bigger deal. As long as it's done right and the erosion control's in place. If it dumps down below that wall, blows through the silt fence, they're gonna have to bring an excavator and clean it and remove it. So that it's in their best interest to keep that from happening, so.
Okay.
And is the proposed addition, is that on sonotubes too, or is that a foundation, or I'm not sure the height here.
So the original plan was concrete foundation to match the rest of the house.
So that would be full excavation out,
Well, that's where the fill comes from.
well,
Oh, so they're just moving part of the yard to another part of the yard.
Ready? Yeah. That's probably half of the volume for that fill. It's a different type of cut and fill.
yeah, they'll have to dig down to like 6 feet for the foundation and the frost wall and all that. Any other questions? And you didn't have the wetlands delineated or anything like that,
No,
correct?
they're outdated.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Not horribly. I forget the date on it, but they're not,
Yeah,
it's
we-
not 20 years. It's,
This was like 15 years ago, this project, I mean, the whole Pillsbury thing.
the grades back there are pretty steep. I don't feel like it's moved very much.
You've been out there and had a look, and you feel that it's,
Correct.
this is, this is really strange, having such an unofficial plan.
Homeowner projects, we have historically approved, hand-drawn in, with kind of stamped engineered plans. The next one you're getting in next meeting, it's hand-drawn plans and then hand-drawn modifications to what they want to do. When we have engineered stamped plans that have everything to scale, I think it's more acceptable historically versus a plan that's truly 100% a doodle, guesstimating at things.
So
Yeah.
you can, once they get the building inspector, you can just ask for a final plan, right?
What do you mean?
They have to go to the building inspector. with
This
a
is what
plan.
they'll submit to the building inspector. All the building inspector cares about, as far as this, is zoning, doesn't meet the zoning.
Okay.
Once he looks at this, then he'll need architectural drawings and the retaining wall, architecture drawings. This is all the this is better than what the building department usually gets. Usually they get the hand-drawn doodles.
So we are looking to approve this, not continue it and get more
I mean,
complete
it-
plans once they've gone to the architect. Is that what we're doing?
So we, excuse me, we don't ever care about architectural drawings. We care about as the bird flies over, looking down on it.
Mhm.
We never, ever, ever see architectural drawings. We
Mhm.
don't care. So
Well,
usually
true.
subdivision shows the house.
I guess.
Once in a while, we do care about them, but as far as this goes, we've never historically cared. So proposed addition, whether it's 1 story, 2, whether
No,
it's
the
cantilevered.
the only thing I care about is the footprint. If,
Correct.
you know, I don't want
So
to
this shows the
approve
footprint.
something and then the footprint changes. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of
And-
approval.
And when we get an as-built back on this, there's very likely that the retaining wall won't be as big and the addition in the deck will be smaller. Because they didn't know exactly to the inch what they were gonna build, they did bigger, and it's gonna get brought back in. And again, they cannot go bigger. If they go smaller, it's less impact, and that's a good thing. We don't capture that to the as-built. And I presume through the process, if there's any changes, they'll get in touch with me to kind of discuss it.
So even
If
in
it's
approval,
smaller,
what-
we approve it.
What am I don't have a date on this. What am I referencing
We
now?
stamped in the original with the date that they submitted the application. So my plan does have the date this was submitted. The 2nd of this month, excuse me, the 2nd of this month.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, I have really not an issue with it, but it just seems strange the way we're doing this in sense I don't know kind of the size. I understand the concept of it can't get bigger, it can only get smaller.
Are you talking like actual dimensions, like?
Yeah,
As far as the dimensions of the actual structures? So
Yeah.
the addition is 20 by 25, I
I
guess.
mean,
I could
that's
really-
probably not gonna change the addition. The addition's gonna stay that size, obviously not get bigger, and the deck is the potential question?
Yeah, the deck is effectively where we wanted to make sure we had enough space to be able to play with whatever design we were going to do without getting in the way of any, you know, with any issues.
So the deck is 50. Like 18, give or take. Yeah.
And this line here, this is the BBW, not a pond, right?
Correct, that's.
So, I mean, it meets the setback for regulations mostly. While we're kind of mulling it over, are there any butters out there for 27 Pillsbury? Yay or nay? No?
He's here for the discussion since 7 o'clock. Patient man.
Discussion. Oh, okay. Any other comments or questions?
So could I just,
Hmm?
so your feeling is that the site is so starkly delineated by the wall, which will
Mhm.
prevent them from encroaching any farther?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this plan is so loosey-goosey compared to what we normally work with and what we normally encourage people to bring to us.
Yep.
But what you're saying is that the conditions on the site are such that it's not going to,
Mm. I mean, I'll be honest, this is not loosey-goosey. This is a 2-scale drawing that's been hand-modified.
This looks like it was
This-
from the original development
Correct.
drawing
Correct.
that
So-
that was photocopied out and.
I-
but as you say, that was 50, I'm sorry
Oh,
to
yeah.
interrupt.
It-
That was a very long
is.
time ago, and we typically see resources growing.
Correct. So it might have gone a foot or two closer. It's pretty steep back there. I don't believe it's gotten 20 feet closer. You know, the wetland change is probably the only argument I would say is not ideal for this. I would very much disagree that it's loosey-goosey. I see plans every day. This looks, I wish I could see this every day.
Well, I don't
This
think,
is not-
I guess I
this
wouldn't
is not-
phrase
I
it
mean,
that way.
the delineation is the problem.
It's, you know, I would just phrase it in terms of, like, normally when someone's doing a project, you kind of decide, I want a 15 by 20 deck, or I want a, you know, 10 by 9 deck, as opposed, not like, I don't, you know, we have a situation where they're not sure yet.
But
They've
they're
got a
showing the
they've got a
absolute-
footprint that they
Yeah.
want to do some
So-
work in.
So in your head, just say it's a 20 by 25 and a 50 by 18. we do as-builds all the time that come back smaller than what's proposed. It doesn't even, no one even thinks about it, just you accept it in. Okay, it's smaller than it was supposed to be, and you just sign off on it. The only time we care is when it's bigger, so they didn't have to tell us that they're making it 2 feet bigger. I think they were just trying to be fair and honest, saying, we don't really know what we're gonna build. They could say, yo, yeah, it's gonna be 50 by 18, 100%. The fact that they're coming in and saying, well, we made it a little bit bigger, it's almost a moot point. They're proposing X. If it comes in 2 feet smaller than X, then it's environmentally a good thing.
Well, I mean, a lot of times people will come in and they'll have an NOI and they'll propose, whatever size, and then they come in for a minor amendment if they wanna change it. That's kind of the normal process.
This minor change is gonna be smaller. It will not come in bigger.
And then,
And that's what they're
and then
committing
we
to,
would
at
vote
least.
it's a minor amendment and just approve it. But, I get the concept that if it's beyond the stone wall here, it's not gonna encroach any further. I mean, the house is already there.
So Laura, to your point, if the wetland's gotten bigger, it would be in the direction of the corner where they have the measurements. So it has, 20 feet till it becomes a waiver on the fill. But to your point, they are pushing that 75. So if the wetland got 5 feet bigger, that deck would be at 70 feet. Traditionally, when it comes to homeowner projects, we don't have them do a full third-party review wetland delineation over 2 or 3 feet.
True.
We've historically treated kind of homeowner improvements differently, which is why I recommend they go this direction. So I feel bad because I understand what you're saying, but I also advise them to come in with this plan, kind of excited we had the plan, and I don't want there to be, hard feelings
I
here.
guess I'm not really concerned with the deck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking at that an enormous amount of fill.
And so I think if they
Because
pulled that
almost
back,
all of that fill area
Yep.
is, within
correct, it's in their
our
buffer.
jurisdiction. It's a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of fill, and I know you,
Also, when you do your calculation really quick, I've done this a couple times, keep in mind when you do a fill, it's not a box, right? So it's, what I say, 20 by 50?
so it's,
So you do 20 by 50 square, do your calculation, and then divide it by 2, because it's a slope.
okay.
And so I look at that fill and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 2 or 3 truckloads of dirt, when I usually see thousands of truckloads. So it might, the scale, we're zooming in, it looks big, and I honestly, I forget what I said, it's 20 by 40 feet, whatever that is. That's not that much when you're talking filling in a slope. It's just from here to there. And they have their estimate on the height of the wall. I don't think it's gonna be 5 feet. If they're gonna pull it back a little bit, that's worst case scenario. I think it's gonna be back 5 feet and probably only 3 feet, 4 feet. Which is why I'm not worried about the fill.
Okay.
And again, we can get better details on that if you want. If that would help with your concern, because it is not exact.
And we're not taking the rocks from the existing wall to make the other retaining wall.
No. Yeah, no, we don't, that wall is well known as not a touch, we do not touch that wall.
That wasn't good question.
I didn't even think to ask that.
Well, people think rocks are free, right? They see it in the woods, it's like, oh, just grab those rocks. You come home from work and the developer's moved all the rocks and said, oh, I thought I could take those.
400-year-old stone walls, gone.
Or 15-year-olds.
Pardon?
Or 15-year-old wall. They
Oh,
put that
instead
wall
of
in as,
15?
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
they put it in as part of the
put that in,
development.
You're right. Okay.
So does anyone feel like making a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the NOI at 27 Pillsbury Lane, DEP 161-0880, GCC 2019-08,
Can we not accept the wetland line?
not accepting the wetland line.
And plan submitted 5/2.
May 2nd,
19.
2019.
Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and it's been seconded to approve the notice of intent for 27 Pillsbury Lane, not accepting the wetland line. Plan dated May 2nd, 2019. Is there any further discussion? I think we need to ensure that we get the as-built drawing in the file, otherwise, 5 or 15 years from now, no one's ever gonna remember this, and that's the point.
Always the case, by
How
the way.
about, sorry, Can we
You can
add working with Steve in the field?
That's a standard. You can
I know
condition
it
it.
is a
No,
standard,
but
but
you
it
can.
needs to be said.
No, but you can condition it also that they'll provide, once they get their better details, right, they can resubmit that to the commission.
Right.
So that can be a condition, that they resubmit once they have the wall. I mean, they're gonna have to do that for the building department. So there's always another catch, by the way. I sign off on the entire project from the building department standpoint. So they're gonna go get the plans drawn up, bring it to the building department. The first sign off they get is me, so I get a look at them. They can't start work until I sign off on that. So there's another catch before they start construction. So if they haven't registered the order of conditions, if they don't have details on the plans, if the deck got bigger, I just don't sign off on the building permit, and then they come back to you guys.
Yeah, so, I mean.
So
I
there's,
would-
there's other catches involved. You don't have to condition it, although working with me is a kind of standard condition we add into every.
We should, you should add, final, final plan to be submitted, obviously prior to,
Okay, prior to work.
because there
You know,
should be one in the
you know,
file, not just a sign off. There should
Is
be
that
one in the file.
correct? Before work begins. And that is the actual to-be-built-to plan.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Do you feel better?
Can we say that? Can we add that?
You can
So
say
motion.
as moved, yeah.
So moved.
What she said.
She's like, there's a Bruins game, I want to go to the pub.
All in, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, all abstaining. Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to close the note of intent for 27 Pillsbury Lane.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close 27 Pillsbury Lane.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 27 Pillsbury Lane. All in favor?
Monday, Tuesday.
Aye.
Thanks,
All
guys.
opposed, all abstaining. Motion carries. All right. And last but not least, we have, I guess, the.
Mr. Dennison.
I did tell you it was gonna be a while. I didn't know it was gonna be that long. Sorry about that.
Very educational.
So this is the 388 North?
No,
No.
this is.
Oh, this is the Camp Det, oh, the,
Yes. Good stuff. We end on a good note.
So good evening.
good evening.
I'm Andrew Prazar, owner-director of North Shore Nature Programs. We've been running camp at Camp Dennison Summer Camp for the last 3 years. So I'm back before you with a license to enter and use real property. So land use agreement. The only change is that so Jim Lacey and the Friends of Dennison want to make this a 3-year agreement.
And I asked a question and no one answered it.
He's going to.
Okay, dates. I mean,
Yes.
I would like to see in the contract dates when you're going to occupy as opposed to like 12 months out of the year for 3 years when you normally run your classes.
So you're looking for
So how do I know when you're going to be there?
Okay, well, I mean-
when you can occupy? Is it 12 months? Is it July and August? Is it?
So I can't give you specific dates only because programs aren't scheduled that far in advance. So I can't tell you in 2 years when I'm
Yeah,
gonna have a school there.
yeah.
I mean, I can give you an outline of what we're using it for now, and maybe that might help.
Well, I
Frame.
think what would help as far as just how long is it just you could reference how long the program runs each cycle that you do it.
Sure. So we'll start with the summer. So the summer program is 6 weeks continuous. This year it starts the week after July 4th, runs through the second week in August, Monday through Friday. We're on site 8 to 4. Kids are there from 9 to 4.
Because I'm thinking in terms of obviously they rent that out for other purposes. I mean, somebody wants to rent it for a wedding, and you've got a 3-year lease. I don't want a conflict.
Oh, correct.
That's kind of
so,
why I'm
right. So it's not written into this lease. I don't believe, but the understanding is that the understanding I have with the Friends of Dennison is that we have not exclusive use, but are allowed to use the property Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, more or less. During camp, I'd say is when we are there the most, obviously, and that's probably when we have the most people with us, because on a given camp week, we have anywhere from 24 to 36 kids there. During the school year, so like for example, this past week, we had a 1-hour program with the 6th graders at Pembroke came and did 1-hour program with us. I had a homeschool group there for 2 hours on Monday afternoon. During some seasons, we'll have one afternoon of after-school programs that last like an hour and a half on Tuesday afternoons. So we are rarely, would not anticipate essentially eating up the daytime hours at Camp Dennison for an entire week or anything like that. We have no expectation of being able to use the grounds on the weekends just because they do rent them out for various groups, for weddings, for...
So, I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be in the contract, but there should be an established schedule that you have with Camp Dennison, just so, again, everyone's not, it's like trying to...
Oh, we do, right.
It's like trying to book a meeting room and everyone tries to book the same room at the same time.
So
And everyone
Camp
gets mad.
Dennison maintains an online calendar on their website, and our programs are listed on there. So I'm in constant communication with Donnie Anderson, the manager there, and we're talking, if not every day, 3 times a week about what's going on and staying abreast of who's where, when, and what areas you're being.
Because, this is new from us from a 3-year perspective. That's kind
Correct.
of a long window out to predict.
No, and I agree. And I mean,
what's going
to be perfectly honest and upfront, the 3-year idea was theirs, not mine. I was happy. I mean, I'm happy to sign 1 year's. They pushed for the 3-year because they just wanted, I guess, the stability. And I was fine with it because I intend on being there for. And I would love to. I mean, I have no.
You have a great program, and I'm
Right,
not.
yeah.
I'm certainly not criticizing it. Again, it's just to me, it's kind of strange in a contract to say, you don't have some more definition of kind of.
And we, and so we also pushed for more definition, like from my side, but the town council would not allow us to alter this contract except for the term of the lease.
It's
It
a
was-
contract between us and yourself. Town council won't allow that, really?
Well, town council has to review all changes to contracts. They would have allowed it, but it was getting complicated where they were starting to argue over language and
Right.
we need this, we need that. They didn't say no, they said.
Correct.
The lawyers got involved and started being like, oh, we need to do this and this, and then it just went away. The other thing, Carl, keep in mind, unlike the previous group that was down there, how many, up to 50 kids, maybe 60 at the max?
Oh, I mean, this summer, like max would be 36.
So even if they're there and it's not like they take over the camp and remember in the past, the people actually were turned around. So no, there's a camp, you can't come.
Yeah, well, that
This
was
is a
that was
very-
my concern with the previous.
Correct. That's not the
operation.
same issue with this. So Monday through Friday, they might have 2 hours here, 2 hours there. When they do use the camp, this is not taking over the camp. There's no parking. You can't walk there.
Right.
30, 40 people overdoing a program. People can still walk their dogs down there. People are still using it. So they're never truly taking it over. And so I think that's partially why when I looked at this, I wasn't too concerned about. You brought up the hours. I wanted him to be able to talk about that. That's why I didn't reply to your email.
Because when I did read the contract, and I'm like, okay, where do because before
No hours of
they had
operation.
defined periods, and you kind of say, okay,
That was the previous group.
Yeah,
they
I know
took,
that.
They took over like 2 months. You're not doing 2 months block. So
And they took over the whole lot.
Correct.
well, yeah,
Whereas you're in the nurse's house, and,
Right.
and so the lodge is still available for weddings and big parties and things at the weekend.
setting up on Fridays.
We were all kicked out of there
Correct.
for the entire summer.
Or they
with
could
the
set up
old
for a wedding.
program.
They could set up for a wedding on Friday, right? Hypothetically, if there's a wedding on
which
weekends.
I
you
had a
don't prevent
problem
it.
with
We'll
because
clear
it's a
out
public
the
use
You don't prevent
facility.
that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it's happening now. The population is much more manageable, and you're in a place where you're out of the way of other people who want to use it.
Right. I mean, like I said, the understanding is we're cleaned up and out of any space that needs to be used on the weekend by 3 on Friday afternoon, especially in the summer when they use it a lot in the weekends, but even during these.
Yeah,
these-
I have no problem with your program. I think it's
Yeah.
great. I just was, as I said, when I read this, I'm like, I've read a lot of contracts. I'm like,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is kind of strange.
Well, right, and like I said, so I mean, other than the summer schedule, and we know, what 6-8 weeks we're going to be there. During the school year, it depends on. I mean, sometimes we don't know until 2 weeks before that a school program's going to come and do an hour or two. But like I said, it's on any given weekday, it's never more than an hour and a half that a group's there with us, and it's usually just one classroom, so that's what 30 kids max.
When did you start doing school programs?
So Pembroke started coming 2 years ago. And then there's a private school, Odyssey Day School, that started coming 2 years ago. And we've been going out to, we've always been gone out to schools, but this is within the last couple of years we've started bringing them to Camp Dennison because they love. I mean, they come
I'm
and
so
they fall in
glad
love with it. Yeah.
The Georgetown schools are finally using.
Yeah. And 5th grade's
some
going
of
to start
our
next year.
nature
So
Areas.
yeah, that's nice.
That's been a neglected resource for them.
I wasn't aware of that.
Mm.
So does anyone have any other issues with the contract?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to be clear, contract, the purpose of a contract is to clarify communication, not to be vague.
It's intentionally
I
vague.
only have one thing.
Although it's not really, a contract that's vague is useless.
I only have one thing to say, and that is thank you.
Let's see, do we need to make a motion on this, or do we
I-
need to, s-
I think it's make a motion
to, basically a motion to, I don't know, agree to,
Accept the contract.
accept the
Perfect.
the 3-year term, I guess.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys can void this pretty easily too. So if you decide you don't like the 3-year term, I think the terms are pretty agreeable in the town's favor too.
Yeah,
at
have
any
this-
time for any reason.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the verbiage was okay, except, again, my only question was the timeline, and I'm trying to remember what the previous contract was. I don't think there was any specific changes. In the
No, in
verbiage.
terms, other than, I think, other than the terms of the license, I don't believe anything else got changed in here.
So I guess I'll entertain a
They
motion.
don't want you to get away, is that why?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20-year contract.
Yeah.
It's it's a life contract.
They get 20% of what I make, so I think they're happy with that.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, let's make a motion to accept the contract to renew the nature programs with North Shore Nature Programs for 3 years. Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to renew the contract for 3 years. And is there a date on that contract, just again from a reference?
February. Is that the, oh, we're gonna write it in. It's today.
Okay, the contract dated 5/16/2019. Is there any further discussion? Yay, nay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Oh, you're stuck with us now.
Well, I'll have to come back next year.
Yeah, but we got here for 3 hours,
That's
so.
The Topsfield town meeting that I went to 2 weeks ago was 6 hours, went from 7 until 1 in the morning.
What?
And
Yikes.
What meeting was it?
doing in Topsfield?
the annual town meeting, so
Oh,
there's
that.
an override, there was a big zoning brouhaha, and what was the third one? Oh, the elephant at the Topsfield Fair.
What happened with the elephant?
The elephant will not be coming back this year.
Will not
Will
be
not be
coming
coming
back.
back. So that took a good 45 minutes of the day.
We don't have any elephants.
Except for the elephant in the room.
That is really interesting. We've never discussed an elephant.
We could get one.
You don't want to, trust me.
Ever.
Okay, I'll get this back to you. Once we sign it, I'll get it to you and you can do all that.
Perfect.
Thank you for coming in, sir.
Thank you guys.
Okay, we have some business to attend to.
All right, I need a,
Want a purple one?
What are you doing over there?
a motion to
101
accept the minutes from May 16th. So just accepting the minutes for May 16th. Last meeting.
Not May 16th.
Oh, that's next.
That's now.
Sorry. Jeez. You're not done with them yet?
April 16th. you
April
must-
6th, April 18th. Sorry about that.
You need a motion to accept the meetings from April 18th?
Yes, please.
2019?
Please.
So moved.
So, yeah, so I'll make a motion to accept the meetings from April 18th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to accept the minutes of the Georgetown Conservation Commission from April 16th. All in favor? Aye. All abstaining? Actually,
April 18th, I thought.
was it 16th or 18th? Actually, I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
April what?
April 2019.
18th.
April 18th. April 18th.
So we have 2 abstentions.
What was the second one? I'm sorry.
Me, I wasn't here.
Oh, that's right.
All right. And any other minutes?
That's it.
Okay.
We're caught up.
Bills.
Camp Dennison, $34. BFC Group for a review of the G Mello project that was here earlier, 203 East Main Street, $805. Reimbursement, $400 for cell and mileage for me. Camp Dennison, $1,500 for Georgetown Building Supply. So the bigger ticket items, Georgetown Electric, $362, $81 for electric, $200 for oil. And then the rest is Georgetown Building Supply and paint. Total of 15. They're always fixing up something. I honestly can't even keep track. They emailed me what the hit list for those was. I didn't get through the whole list. So they're always working on something. Oh, thank you. That's the bills for tonight.
Is someone want to make a motion to approve bills as read by Steve?
So just leave the top for Carol and just go from
Pay
there
the
down.
bills is read by Steve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and it's been seconded to approve the bills as read by Steve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstaining.
I'm gonna hand around the contract that you just agreed to for the Camp Dennison.
For 30 years.
This is a certification of compliance for 2 Fieldstone Lane. It is a septic system. Keep in mind there's 2 COCs for every one. This is the COC for Blueberry Lane. It was permitted under 62R Baldpate. This is the order of conditions, both local and state, for 27 Pillsbury Lane. This is the project you guys approved tonight. This is an order of conditions for 182 Pond Street that you approved tonight. Is that you? You have to do the top one, too. Yeah, so there's just no sticky, sorry about that. Technically, we only need 4 signatures, so the end of the chain does not necessarily have to sign.
It's the 16th.
Yes.
Yes. And this is the enforcement order, both the local, the attachment and the actual enforcement order for 388 North Street.
There's nothing else here, right? Just this.
Somebody signed it the 6th. Need an extra one.
No, 16th?
Yeah, somebody signed it the.
Oh. That would be me.
Time flies.
It really does.
Last meeting, a couple of questions for Camp Dennison refrigerator. They apparently have 5 refrigerators down there in
What?
different buildings,
5?
different ages. So we're actually looking at replacing all of them.
So they, what do you use, like 7 megawatts per week?
The question brought up about the technology in the pond to help with nitrogen. I sent to the DEP right after that meeting, and I haven't heard back from them. So I'll follow up with them again Monday. You asked about installing, I forget the technology for helping to clean up the pond.
Oh,
We had chatted, we talked to the meeting about what it would take to permit that. I didn't have an answer for you because I've never done anything like that before. That question got sent to the DEP the Monday after that meeting. I haven't heard back yet. So you have 2 questions with that in the fridge. So we're on the fridge. They're getting estimates to replace all of them.
Let's see. Do you want us to sign on here somewhere? Or
No,
just the
that's
front?
that's just for us. I should not do it
Okay.
there.
Well, we could start a refrigerator museum.
I think that one in the lodge is the oldest, the only really old.
Well, the one
The
that
other
has
ones are just
the
dated.
compressor on the top, that's rather
Oh,
dated.
jeez. That needs to go up to the Deerfield Fair.
And that's all I have.
Let's see.
Or do you wanna see all these? Or are you just enjoying that you've done kind of in this state of peace and tranquility?
Oh, I already signed this one. It's coming around, it's getting circular here. So we've got 3 signatures.
This one has 1, 2, 3, 4.
182 Pond. Okay, and if that's it, anyone have any other discussion points? No? Yeah? I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting for May 16th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the meeting of May 16th, 2019.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to close the May 16th meeting 2019. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Good night, everyone.